The National Hockey League, the offseason has begun as of today, at least like officially. Free agency opens, all the crazy stuff. I'm not going to break down every single free agent because, to be honest with you guys, I just don't know a lot of these free agents. And you can blame the NHL and you can also blame me for not knowing all these people. But the NHL is just one of those leagues that I love watching, but is impossible to really follow without being basically inundated with hockey content all the time, everywhere, at all places. I can't do it. Can't do it. I want to focus on the Red Wings right now because, well, let's just get into it. So, just before the draft, I believe it was just before the draft, the Red Wings trade for John Gibson, a goaltender out of the Anaheim Ducks. They trade Peter Mrazek, who they traded for at the trade deadline, and a couple of draft picks to get John Gibson. And all things considered, John Gibson is probably the best goaltender as far as resume goes since, I don't know, probably certainly for a very long time. John Gibson's a solid goaltender. He didn't play a whole lot last year. He was dealing with injuries. But he's only a couple of years removed from having a really, really solid year, like an all-star caliber year. John Gibson is a fine goalie. But John Gibson is not Patrick Waugh. John Gibson is not suddenly vaulting you into the playoffs. And to make things even weirder, I just have to ask, what is wrong with Sebastian Cossa? Did this guy run over Steve Yzerman's cat? Or did he say something that made everybody in the room uncomfortable? Did he mention he was, I don't know, he was just busy, reading up on astronomy books and how totally made up they are and that the moon is actually fake. What did this kid do? You go and you look at his stats in the AHL, you're like, okay, yeah, he seems to be kind of tearing it up. All right, let's bring this guy to the NHL. Let's bring him in. And no, Steve Yzerman would have rather had Peter Mrazek last year playing in net than Sebastian Cossa. And then now, okay, you're going to have John Gibson and what's his name? Oh my gosh, the other guy. Oh my gosh, what is the name of their other goalie? Talbot. Cam Talbot. Thank you, brain, for remembering that. So you're going to have Gibson and Talbot, I guess? Or, you're going to have a three-headed goaltending line? Is Cossa going to come up in the inevitability when John Gibson gets injured? Or when Cam Talbot goes down? I don't know what the thought is, but it seems to me that you're sticking Sebastian Cossa in the AHL for yet another season for him to just further develop. How long is it going to take? And that leads into some of these other things. Patrick Kane signs a one-year deal, so he's coming back. Jonathan Berggren signs a one-year deal. And Albert Johansson, I believe, signs a 2-year deal. I'm not sure on the term either with Berggren, just to be certain as well. That could be a 2-year deal. All right. Let me just make a point here. Jonathan Berggren stinks. Okay, I don't want to hear about, well, give him another year. Jonathan Berggren is awful. He is my bugaboo. The more I have to see of Jonathan Berggren on this team, the less confident I am in this team's ability to make the next jump. If he is a part of this team, you're just not as good as you could be. And okay, fine. You want to bring back some of your own guys. You like the fits. They know the system. Okay, fine. Whatever. Let's see who you can go and get. Well, you can't get Noah Dobson because he got traded to the Canadiens and he gets his contract extension. Okay, maybe you want to go get Aaron Ekblad. Can't get Ekblad. He's staying with the Panthers. Sam Bennett, Marchand, same deal. What about Mitch Marner? You want to think big? Mitch Marner. He's going to the Golden Knights. And throughout this entire day, I'm just waiting. Okay, what are we going to do? We sell off Vladimir Tarasenko for future considerations to the Minnesota Wild. What are we waiting for? What are we gonna do? And just crickets. Just complete and utter nothingness. Not a trade, not a massive free agent. Like, we essentially spent the entire first day of free agency signing for the Grand Rapids Griffins. I saw a comment in the Reddit, the Red Wings Reddit, that I thought was quite poignant, which is somebody needs to remind Steve Yzerman that he is also roster building for the NHL team and not just the AHL team. Because I got to tell you, there was a lot of people in some of those comments that were like, oh, wow, what a great depth piece. The Griffins are going to be great. Let's go, Griffins. You know, maybe I'm the weird one. I'm beginning to hate the Griffins. Like the more that the Griffins seem to get the players that I'm actually interested in for this team, whether it's Sebastian Cossa or Danielson or whomever or Sandy and Pellica, the more that they get them, the more I'm like, is he the GM of the Grand Rapids Griffins or the GM of the Detroit Red Wings? And if these guys aren't good enough to play for the Detroit Red Wings, what do I care if they're good enough to play for the Grand Rapids Griffins? Is this a shock to people? Like, what is the point of signing these players? I don't understand. If the idea is, okay, we're signing these guys because they're going to be in the AHL, so because we're going to bring up all the kids. Okay, well, if that's the case, you're going to have a team of nothing but your prospects, okay? So you're going to have a team of, young players who may or may not be good just being thrown into the fire, when what you could do is you could sell off some of the dead bodies, otherwise known as the fourth line of this hockey team, and let the young players play in the smaller, less, pressure-ridden minutes, right? And let them develop slowly and work their way up, and then bring in these established stud / superstar / above average players, as opposed to this, like, just seeming immunity, this allergy to any move that would expedite the process or that might cost you something you like. Like, okay, could Nate Danielson be a very good player? Maybe. All right. He's not right now. Okay. Like, when you go up and down this Red Wings roster, outside of Lucas Raymond, outside of Dylan Larkin, maybe Alex DeBrincat, and then on the defensive side, Mo Seider, are any of these guys on a first-line team that's in the Cup? I mean, like, let me put it this way. Would any of those guys that I just named be able to replace any of the guys in the first line of the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers of this past year's Cup? No. The answer is absolutely, positively no. And you want to know how I know that answer is absolutely, positively no? Is because Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, both of those guys played in the Four Nations Cup, and they were not on the first line. So that is just of guys from their country. Okay, like, Dylan Larkin is not even a first liner among players in the United States of America. So why would it be the first line of a team that's going to the Stanley Cup? Like, when you put all of the best players from one country onto a team, he is not a first liner. So I just, it just feels like, deja vu all over again with this Red Wings offseason. Last year, this exact sort of thing happened. You get rid of Jake Wallman, and you're just sort of like, okay, well, anything gonna happen? You gonna sign a big free agent? You gonna make a trade, Steve? And it's just a whole lot of nothing. And at this point, I've gotten used to it. And I've made my thoughts known. I think Steve Yzerman should be fired. And I'm not holding back on that. If this really is the offseason, which obviously you're going to see some guys come in, perhaps. Like, the more time goes by, the less likely that is to be. You're going to see maybe a name or two sign or maybe a smaller trade. But if your roster basically looks exactly the same as last year, like if your best players going into this year are the same as your best players going into last year, you're not going to make the you're definitely not going to make the Stanley Cup. You're probably not going to make the playoffs. And newsflash, Steve Yzerman probably isn't going to make it until next offseason. And look, that is all without talking about the actual draft in which Steve Yzerman once again decides to use the 13, or I guess wasn't necessarily always picking 13, decides to use the pick to take some guy named Carter Bear, whatever the heck his name is. I got to tell you, I saw more people excited about this guy because he was an indigenous person playing for the Red Wings than that he actually could play hockey. He could be from planet Mars. I don't care. Steve Yzerman's not going to be here by the time he plays if things keep going the way they're going. So I don't care. I don't care if he comes from the Chesapeake Bay or from, Mount Olympus. It makes zero difference to me. So if all you're hanging your hat on is, oh, well, I'm so glad to see an indigenous person on the Red Wings, then you're just not serious. And you just treat the Red Wings, you treat hockey in Detroit like it's a little plaything where you can just imagine what the team is going to be like in 10 years instead of actually realizing the team you have right now sucks and will continue to suck until something happens, until you do something drastic. I don't usually call for drastic changes for the other teams in the city, given the fact that they are actually good, given the fact that all of them have made the playoffs or will make the playoffs again. I don't think drastic changes are needed to improve that. But with the Red Wings, that is not the case. You do need to make drastic changes. You're entering into year 7 of a rebuild that has no end in sight. Let's say you do make the playoffs. What then? If you're just able to creep into the playoffs, if you're last year's New Jersey Devils and you just get pounded, what was the point? Why didn't you go a little harder? Why didn't you pursue some of these big names? Why didn't you fire the coach you hired way earlier when it was clear he was in over his head? Why didn't you fire the coach you inherited when you knew that he was a dead man walking? Why'd you maintain a player like Dylan Larkin when it's clear that he is not a first-line center and you could have sold him while the value was high when you first got here and really, went all in, but instead you had to hold on to him and now you're stuck with him. So the Red Wings continue to kind of cycle. I don't anticipate that Steve Yzerman is going to make another move or a major move because it's just not in his DNA. I don't think he is capable of making those moves. I don't think he wants to make those moves. I think he wants to sit back and let his draft picks develop, slowly but surely bring them up through the systems, never trade them for anything that is currently available, and maybe in 2030 when the team is ready to go, based entirely on all of his draft picks working out, which never happens, then maybe people will understand. Just one more thing to end this segment. To anybody who is still a believer in Yzerman, I need to know, what's your deadline? What is your expiration date? Because my expiration date was this past trade deadline. That was my expiration date. And frankly, my expiration date might have started at the beginning of last season. But what is it? Is it 2027? Is it the end of this? If they don't make the playoffs, are you done? Or is it next year? Or is it 3 years from now? Or is it in 2030? Or do you never want to give up on Steve Yzerman? If you are in the never category, you can kindly leave because I don't respect you as an intellectual or as a person who wants to dialogue about sports, because clearly you're actually not that interested in any sort of reality. You're just interested in I don't know, rooting for your favorite hockey player in the whole wide world who's not even playing hockey anymore. He's sitting in a press box most of the time. So sad stuff for the Red Wings overall. Happy 100-year anniversary. Oh, by the way, Alex Delvecchio's dead. Happy 100 years. Happy centennial. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.